Okay, my name is Kyle Rickenjud. I'm the coordinator of Education Technology and Media Services. This is now my 12th year. And prior to this, I spent 6 years as an assistant principal at Elkton Middle School. So I have two interesting perspectives on what's it take for media specialists and how they're going to communicate and have that conversation with their building level administration. And so in this day and age, it's absolutely critical to have a really clear and strong conversation with your administration in order to continue to promote your program, but also letting them know what exactly you're doing in the building and that kind of impact you're having with kids and with instruction. And so where we want to have that conversation from kind of at that national level or in some district levels of where that media position is disposable, to really have that conversation where it's indispensable. And so really that's where you come into play of having those repeated conversations with your building level folks, because then they're going to get asked, well, how to, at central office level, what happens or what is your media person doing? And then they can have some ammunition, if you will, or some really pinpoint targeted examples on how you are making a tremendous impact with kids and instruction and in the classroom. So what exactly does that look like? And because it goes beyond just, all right, this is how I'm spending my money, or this is how I've designed and get the layout of my media center. It's really providing that one-on-one dialogue about these are the research projects, or this is that instructional strategy I used, or this is how I specifically collaborated with a classroom teacher and we designed X project, or we completed X research project, how it aligned to the Common Core and the SLO performance of that classroom teacher. And really diving into the specifics about exactly what those lessons look like and what did the growth show, or how did those kids learn and what were their takeaways. Because that's really going to be the measure and the value of what you bring to the school is how are you impacting those student lives. So I'm going to pause right there. From the supervisory level, the portion that I hold dear, or what I try to impart to my media folks, is that we are teachers, and so we need to be accountable like teachers. And if the teachers are doing something, and so are we, we don't get extra time or perceived extra time sitting in the media center just to check in and check out books, and that's not what we're about. And so what is that documentation, and what does that conversations look like that go beyond that? And so the big piece that I like to require from my folks are the lesson plans for the day. So you have your traditional classroom lesson plans, and if you're going to teach a class, yeah, you got to have your lesson plans. But for me, is on those perceived off days, or where we call media management days, or there's going to be days where maybe a class doesn't come to the media center and they may be open. Well, have you set goals and set targets for what you're going to accomplish that day? You need to have a plan, whether you have kids in there or you have not. And then that becomes that running tally on the things that you have done to either improve your program or to communicate about your program or advocate for your program. And having that journal / diary, for me, more that planning of those days that, again, kids aren't in there. You then have that conversation piece, and you're laying it out with your administration saying, all right, this day, yes, I didn't have kids in here, but here's what I did. I did some research for X teacher on providing some background knowledge for X kind of novel they're looking at. I did this, I pulled this kind of information from my digital databases because I know that my social studies teacher is working on this certain unit. I sat down and really kind of outlined the books, knowing that we have this reading program. I said, all right, here are the books that I know that I don't have in my media center. I made sure I got it in audiobook form. I also got it in my ebook form, so that I have some multiple ways of access. And so just having that quick dialogue, hopefully you can see, that's the conversation piece that gets administrators excited about, oh, I didn't know that was available. Oh, I didn't know you could do that. Oh, I didn't, providing that kind of attention-getting kinds of actions that you're doing that no one's going to see unless you tell them. And so that's the part that I know gets myself excited about when I'm having those dialogues with my media specialist about doing the things that I don't necessarily anticipate, or making sure that, and remind me, these are the other parts of their job that do go unnoticed, but can have significant impact on, with the teacher as well as the kids in the classroom. The big impact of media folks, they have to obviously make an impact with the classroom, but ultimately, how are you going to show your building level folks how you are making an impact at that individual student level? So yes, we talked about the teacher impact, we talked about classroom impact, so now let's talk a little bit about that student impact, that student outreach, and community outreach. Community outreach is great, and we can talk about book drives, book nights, you can do bookmobiles, you have the little birdhouse libraries, I call them, but it's a little harder to measure and really kind of pinpoint for principals, and it's kind of more, I think, indirect kind of things. Certainly important, but really it's, those kids sitting in the building right in front of your face, how are you reaching out and getting them involved into the building? So for me, I've always been kind of in tune to like the invisible kids. Those kids that really don't have a place or really don't seem to fit. At least for them, they don't seem to fit. And how are we leveraging opportunities for them so that they can be connected and feel involved into a building? Because I completely believe that once kids are connected and believe in what they're doing and believe in where they are more inclined to obviously perform better and invest themselves back into their schoolwork and back into their building, and it gives themselves a purpose. So I think for me, it's what principals really get excited about. It's what are those things you're doing for kids on an individual basis? When you talk about empowering them and giving them an avenue to express themselves, and so in some of our buildings we've done the Star Wars theme nights, we've done the Harry Potter nights that have gone over extremely well. What are those library advisory committees, the book clubs, and all those kind of areas where kids are given opportunities to participate in something that they're interested in, that they may or may not have access to in the regular classrooms. And so when you bring that value of how you're reaching out to students and how they belong to a place in the building, those things are hard to measure. That's not going to sit on any SLO. That's not going to sit in any achievement test. But it is totally important to the growth and development of any kid. So how do you connect with the students on an individual level and provide them that connectivity to that school community? And I believe in any of our positions that we have in our school building, that media person can absolutely address that in ways that classroom teachers can. So in that conversation, you talk about impact with the teacher, impact with instruction, but also then impact with that student community. And bringing that kind of trifecta of conversation absolutely will prove to your principal and prove to the leadership at large of how indispensable you are. And hopefully the byproduct is you continue that growth and you continue that funding, and it just kind of comes this positive circle that keeps revolving and making your program even that much better. So, but again, it all starts with you and having that critical conversation with your building level admin and showing them your value and showing the indispensability, if you will, of what you bring to the table that no other position can.
Hi, my name is Josh Mangold, and I'm the principal here at Kenmore Elementary School with Cecil County Public Schools. This is the end of my third year. I'm going into my fourth year as principal here, It marks my 7th year in administration, and I wanted to spend a little bit of time this afternoon talking about what it is that I look for in a media specialist. This is a good time of year for me to do this because we just wrapped up evaluations. And one of the things we talk about with our staff here consistently is the 51-49 split. And what that is we talk about 51% of the majority of what we do is why we do this. It's the why of why we teach. We teach for our students, and we all have our own reasons, but it needs to be the majority of what brings us into the school each day. And the 49% is the actual what that we do, and oftentimes that's measured through assessments or more formalized means. And that's important too, because we want to make sure that we're successful. So when I look at a media specialist, for me, the why ideally is that I have a media specialist who is going to help our students become passionate readers or have a love for reading. And that's very important. I had an observation conference recently where we talked to a teacher about their greatest legacy was going to be that their students leave this building year in and year out saying that I learned to love reading in this classroom. And that'll last longer than any test score. So that's the why of what we do. But unfortunately in this day and age, the what's the other 49%. So when I look at a media specialist, I want them to be able to accomplish that why, but the what, that other 49% of the time is probably a little bit more specific. I'm hoping that my media specialist can communicate well, and that means communicating not just with their students, but also with their administration and their colleagues. And what that looks like at the elementary level is that my media specialist may come to me to talk to me about a new series of books that they have, which I'm always interested in hearing, but I'm more interested in hearing about how that's going to connect with their students and the work that their colleagues are doing so that we're supporting one another as professionals. So that if I have a third or a fourth or a fifth grade classroom or classrooms or grade level that are working on specific standards, it's my hope that a media specialist is working in collaboration with them towards those standards so that they're still accomplishing their own why, which is hopefully creating passionate readers and children who love to learn to read, but doing it in a manner that is supportive of the standards and of their colleagues. And in order to do that, they have to understand those interpersonal skills about how to relate to and connect to both their administration, their community members, which are their students, their parents, their colleagues, so that they can form those relationships to make sure that they can get that what part accomplished. And in the end, we've done it right if we've created passionate readers, but did so in a manner that helped us to address the standards and work collaboratively together. The other thing I would like to talk a little bit about is really the best way for a media specialist to communicate, I guess, with the school administration about their program and what it is that they're doing. And something that needs to be understood in this situation is it really is dependent upon the type of leader that you have in the building. And that goes back to those interpersonal skills of being able to read situations and understanding your colleagues and who you're working with. For me personally, I literally and figuratively have an open door policy, so my hope is that all of my staff, when they have needs or questions or they want to pursue something, will come in and present it to me. And it usually what happens is it's a kind of a drop everything and give that staff member the attention that they deserve as professionals when they come in with those questions or ideas. If, however, I'm in the middle of something, we will set aside a time later to do that. But it's important as a media specialist to be able to articulate those things and work with your school administration to kind of put a plan into motion. And for me, what I'm looking for is someone who's going to come right in and say, this is what I'm thinking. Are there other ideas that you have that could enrich this or other thoughts? And then have a plan in place to actually present something. Time is limited for everybody in a school. And it's my hope that when my staff comes to me that they come with a plan already in place. And then it's, as a good administrator, it's my job to support that plan, offer suggestions if I think there's area for suggestions, and then move that forward. So really the communication is a key part, having those interpersonal skills. And I think sometimes as an administrator, when I was going through my own master's program and training, I think that part can often be left out, and it's the critical factor of connecting to your colleagues and understanding how to communicate a vision and a plan and then work collaboratively towards that. So those are the keys for me, and I hope that's been helpful. Another question that frequently comes to me by staff members, and recently by one of my own staff members who's going through a media specialist program, is that of finances and budget, and how to support the vision that they have. Very important question. It's going to depend, the answer that is going to depend on where you're at and who your administration is. For me personally, being in my third year in this building, I have a pretty comprehensive understanding of my funds and how I can carry over funds and what funds I have available to support different initiatives. What I look for from staff members, and in particular a staff member who is looking at our media program, is to come with some sort of plan, but then she just put out there, is there a way that you can financially support me, or are there other means for which you can support me in moving this vision forward? And really what sold me on it was we had a shared vision. I really appreciated what she presented in terms of what she wanted to accomplish, and then we were able to speak specifically about how we could do that with a limited budget. But I was able to come back to that staff member and say, I can initially set aside $3,000 to start this project, and then we identified ways to seek additional support through our parent-teacher organizations and also our business partners, and then I was able to offer her some contacts there that she could follow up on. But that conversation wouldn't have started if she didn't just directly come in and say, here's my vision, and once we talked about that, it was, how can you support me in getting this done? And it was a direct ask about financially as well as other means, and I think it's important. That goes back to the relationship piece, where we have a relationship as colleagues and professionals, that she was comfortable enough to bring that, and that's my job to support that. So it's best to have a plan and have some common ground, and then be direct, ask for what you need, because that's what, as a professional, it'll be appreciated from your administration.
So I'm Ann Gelrich. I am Executive Director for High Schools for Cecil County Public Schools and a former principal. So the first question is, what do you look for in a media specialist? I'm looking for a really well-rounded media specialist who is willing to be part of the school, inviting, getting teachers to come down to come to the library. So I'm looking for a media specialist who will get teachers to come to the media center to interact with what they're doing in their classroom and what is available in the library or through the library. So the librarian has to be a specialist, very adaptable, curious, and again, welcoming. The old image of a school marm librarian doesn't cut it anymore. And if you don't have that welcoming personality, you won't have people join you. So there's a lot of different ways that you could communicate with a principal, but first you have to really know what is in the principal's wheelhouse and what they're really interested in. So for example, I really wanted to grow the STEM program. So if you talk to me about STEM, I'm going to listen to you. But if you talk to me about something that's not really high on the priority list, I might not give you as much time as you'd like. Casual conversations in the hallway. Get a principal when they're doing lunch duty. Not all principals do that, but they have to stand there and talk anyway, or stand there and watch anyway. It's a good time to have a casual conversation. Email is fine, but don't always expect an answer. Just an idea. Invite your principal to come when you're doing something interesting. If you're teaching a class or you have another teacher's class in the media center, say, hey, I've got this going on, why don't you come stop by and see it? You don't have to do an observation, just see what we're doing. So that's another good way. And if you get a principal is busy from the moment teachers come till the moment teachers leave, with the kids in between. So if you're the kind of person who can come in when things are settled and there's not a lot going on, you have a better shot at getting their attention, whether that's after school, early before school, or in the summer, or on a day when you're not working but the principal is. Those are times when it's a lot easier to interact with them.
Hello, my name is David Foy. I am the principal of Northeast High School from grades 9 to 12. One of the big things of what I look for in a media specialist, one of the main things that stands out is someone who can be collaborative. whereas they can collaborate with other teachers, they can collaborate with administration to do specific things that needs to happen for students to engage in instruction. And when we look at the collaboration piece, it's mainly the teacher to media specialist relationship, whereas that the yesteryear of media centers or librarians are pretty much non-existent, whereas you just come into the library, you check out a book, and then you leave. Whereas now they're infused into the curriculum, whereas they're providing resources, they're providing opportunities for students as far as leveraging technology, whether it's a research paper, whether it's a project to learn more about, whereas we're offering many different, I would say, opportunities for students to access the media center at home, also within the classroom and the actual space itself. The collaborative piece is mainly the planning portion with the teachers, whereas they sit down, they come up with a plan. Many times it happens on the fly. They actually come into the media center to maybe look at a novel or look at a different textbook, and while they're in the media center, the media specialist approaches the teacher, says, well, tell me what you're doing. And from that leads on to a relationship where now they're working in partnership to do future projects. That's a huge, huge key piece to a media center as far as the collaborative effort. The other piece that I also look at when we're looking at media center is someone who's personable, whereas they can make those connections not only with teachers but with students, because there are times where there's students who want to come and access books, whether it's the hard bound books or whether it's electronic ebooks and those types of things. So the media specialist has to be somewhere where kids want to be, and it has to be a person that kids enjoy being around, whereas they can make those connections and saying, try this, you may like this, whereas they can generate their own business, so to say. So that's very important as well. And the other portion as far as being a media specialist that I think that you really, really, have to have a keen, eye for is the ability to manage finances, because you're purchasing books. And when you're purchasing books, you have to be able to get the best deal for books or the best deal for ebooks and seeing what's out there. And the space itself, there's still a place within the school that's considered the library or the media center. How do you leverage this and make this appealing so students, teachers, and just staff members want to come there and engage in reading, engage in finding different things. So that's an important role that you must be able to develop and you must be able to have in order to be effective. And this extends not only to the building that we have, but also at home. All those different things go hand in hand in making, an impact in building, I think, the idea of media specialists. Being in a school can be a busy place, especially busy in reference to time that's needed from the principal. The type of relationship in which I always like to try to have with our media specialists is one that's very fluid. Whether we meet in the hallways, whether we meet in the cafeteria, or whether we meet for a regular meeting, there's a variety of different ways to engage in conversation as far as, where we see the vision of the media center going. One of the best things that I always like to do is, even if it's a few minutes, we still touch base in a face-to-face. We can send things by email and things and says, as far as, what's upcoming and things like that. But the best part of communication is doing face-to-face, and it could be brief. Like I always say, we're in the people business. Sometimes we get behind the computer, and sometimes we miss out on that interaction. I would say if it's just, things, just a reminder and things like that, I would say, yeah, you use that through email. But if you're really thinking about, transformation or doing some different changes, I would say you make contact with the administrator. Either you catch them where they typically be, which mainly probably are the hallway or the cafeteria, or in the main office. And if you can't get to them in those spots, if it's something a little more confidential, you needed some more time, contact the lead secretary to set up those appointments. I think that face-to-face interaction, I think the weekly meetings of just saying hi means a lot, and really as far as supporting the media center and the opportunities that our students will be afforded to. One of the best lines of communication is always pick up the phone. Pick up the phone and pose the question. You really don't know whether or not how someone feels until you ask the question. I always say that, if you really want something, you ask about it, and you show steps on how you would make those things happen. Anyone who's leading the school and has a vision of the school can recognize when someone's thought out a plan and says, this is how I think this could go. And these are the shortcomings that may happen, but this is what we could gain. And a leader would evaluate that. And as they evaluate that, they'll be able to make a more informed decision. So a lot of the books and things that are pushed on the shelf, I have not read all of those books, and I would lie to say that I have. I trust that our media specialist has vetted these books and they've communicated to say, Mr. Floyd, these are the ones that are a little sticky. Could you just at least take a peek at this? And that's the kind of relationship you want to have with principals and building leaders. Funding is always an area of concern, especially when you have limited budget or you don't have a budget at all. One of the ways in which I would always suggest in reference to trying to obtain more money is if you go to your principal and you say, we really want to purchase these items because it'll make this impact. And one of the compelling reasons, that any principal look at, how many people will it affect? Will it affect a small size, or you're talking about a large student body? And can it be, used year after year? That's one of those key things, and it's really the rationale and the impact that really decides that. And also principals and just people in general take into account what have we done to fundraise for some of this as well. So it's so to say we have skin in the game, such as, do we have book fairs that we're doing? Do we have other different types of events where we're trying to raise revenue to support something? It's not unlikely when someone comes to me or to meet a special company and says, yeah, Mr. Floyd, I really want to get this added. I know it costs some money. I'm going to do some of these fundraisers to see if we can raise the money. And, if they come up short and he says, oh, I see you've been working towards this, I do have extra money to support said program because I see the impact also. It means a lot to you. It means a lot to the students. Therefore, in turn, we can find ways to make those things happen.
Media specialist at Elkton High School, we're looking for someone who creates an environment that will bring students in, whether it be for school-based research, book selection, with classes and teachers for lessons. We want to have an inviting environment, and we have specific areas set up for tall chairs, kind of cafe tables and such. We have some beanbag chairs. We have two different instructional areas, so we have a very good supportive environment there for students. And the media specialist has done things through her budget to supplement the selection of materials that we have, not only for research and so forth, but also for popular books and novels and things like that kids want to dig into. They want to come there to get involved with that. We have a lot of kids that will ask to go to the media center from the cafeteria, which we usually let most of those go as long as they have a pass, which most of them do. I think that we're looking for someone who collaborates with teachers with lessons to bring the media resources that we have into the picture with the curriculum. And that blend of instruction has worked very well. The media specialist here is one who supports teachers. She provides professional development for teachers for PARC resources for reading and writing. She supports students co-curricularly, I can't even say the word right, in a co-curricular situation by helping some of the teachers that she works with frequently with costumes for drama productions and things like that. Some of the little things that they need support with, she's very willing to jump in and be hands-on with that. Creating monthly reports that give you a summary of exactly what's happening in the media center, projects, weekly visits by teachers and classes, administrative duties that she performs, such as updating the website, the school website, updating the Facebook page, sending a newsletter out to staff, just a lot of things that she does behind the scenes that make everything kind of flow in and out of the media center. And of course the collaboration with teachers, the records that are kept there, and not only with the planning aspect, but the actual instruction that takes place.